travailler dans...
A great day to you and welcome to today's edition of Press Hour. When you pray for Cameroon, what is the content of your prayer? Do you pray for blessings for a country rich in diversity, to use its constitutions, that is its institution, material and human resources, to become more united, to become more stronger, and to stand taller in the concert of nations? Or for one reason or the other, for personal or collective reasons, you wish that the country should disintegrate and, like a ship, sink with everyone. Generators and promoters of hate speech and those who are working to segment the country are working together or separately to sink the state. There is nothing better than a nation state, united in diversity. We are bigger, higher, and greater together, as individuals, groups, associations, and as the state. We cannot sit back and passively consume whistling sounds of tribalism, division, and hate language. We must identify instigators and promoters of such unpatriotic behavior as bad seeds and separate them from the lot, especially during this period of celebrations marking the 51st edition of the National Day. That is what we are going to be talking about, ladies and gentlemen, looking at those threats that are against national unity. Our topic then is threats to national unity. How can we overcome such threats? And to talk about this, we have Professor Paul Batibonack, who is an international relations expert. He is a minister plenipotentiary. He is also a prolific writer. Prof, we are honored to have you on this set today.
It's my pleasure, sir.
We have another professor, Professor Victor Mbarika, who is a Cameroonian Diaspora Patriot. And I say Patriot because that's what you will hear from him today. He is living in Cameroon and the United States, at the same time carrying out things that other people cannot. He is going to tell us how he succeeds and how he can pull other people to do the same for this country. Welcome to Press Asset.
Thank you very much, my dear brother Kilian.
To also mention here is that you are the president of the ICT University,
yes,
based around the world, with one of the bases in Cameroon.
And I'm very proud of the one in Cameroon, especially.
Because this is your country.
It's home.
Thank you very much. We have Ndi Eugene Ndi. Ndi Eugene Ndi is publisher and editor-in-chief of NewsWatch newspaper. Eugene, it's always our pleasure to welcome you on this set.
The pleasure is shared, Kilian. I'm grateful to be back on the set after a short while, and I'm grateful that I'm meeting eminent professors who are on the set and experts in hate language like Desmond and the rest. It's my pleasure to be here.
And you know, the fourth estate is what you represent here. And
in theory.
That's not a debate. We're going to introduce you, Desmond Ngala. Desmond Ngala is the Chief Executive Officer of Civil Watch organization that fights on patriotic behavior, that fights on civic behavior, that especially also fights hate speech. We are very glad, we are very honored to have you here, Desmond.
Thank you, Kilian, and good afternoon to all our televiewers. And I'm happy to be back on Press Hour on the eve of the national celebrations of our National Day. Also sharing this program with eminent professors and people from the media. I'm particularly honored to be here this afternoon.
We are honored by your presence equally. Thank you very much. So we're going to take some of those things that are threat to national unity, and we're going to see how we can overcome them. That is the focus of our discussion today. And it's going to be set for us by press review that we have at the beginning of this program. Yoti Kale Lesonge did press review for us. Yoti, tell us what the newspapers have been saying the past week.
Adept pressmen came through for the newspaper audience this week. Echo Outlook announces the Peace and Development Forum in the Southwest region, a gathering on the theme, The Southwest, Our Region, Our Challenge, Our Common Destiny. The Guardian Post reports that the conclave ran under the patronage of the Prime Minister, with participants brainstorming and developing strategies to consolidate peace and sustainable development in the region. The same media organ spotlights the Public Independence Conciliator, bridging the gap between councils and the population to promote decentralization and good governance. Regions raging in armed conflict, causing dismissed SDF bigwigs to call for a nationwide boycott of the 20th May celebration, the Guardian Post writes. In any case, stakeholders in Meme Division intensify preparations ahead of the National Day celebration. Meanwhile, 3 separatist fighters in Mundimba have dropped their weapons and 7 others joined the DDR center. This, however, doesn't influence the print media's choice of words when it reports on the killing of Anyende Saw, a journalist at The Advocate. The Horizon headlines, Ambazonia forces shooting dead of a journalist. The Guardian Post has the government accusing Amba fighters of killing the journalist in Bamenda, while journalism associations condemn the killing, calling for immediate investigation. In an editorial, the Guardian Post says Amba fighters have crossed the red line, dedicating an entire dossier to retracing the Ambazonia war against journalists. The heartfelt tribute of Cameroonian journalists to the young colleague can be seen on the horizon. In the Southwest region, the disturbing security situation pushes the Chief of Great Support to intensify vigilante groups. Meantime, at a special security meeting in Yaoundé, the Territorial Administration boss promises help to authors of rising insecurity. Cameroon Tribune underlines the need for the systematic identification of transporters to curb insecurity in the nation. To provide Cameroonians with safe highways, the papers also disclosed the month-long suspension of Touristic Express following the deadly accident along the Garwa-Bulai-Ngaoundéré highway. NewsWatch comes back on the flight mode protest, with telecoms operators pledging to fix network disruptions. A symposium on fighting hate speech equally animated conversations this week and filled newspaper columns. Not only that, but the Yaoundé xenophobe has been allegedly arrested for derogatory and insulting language against Anglophone women. This week as well, 15 meters of the Kondengi prison wall collapsed. Newspapers, however, reassure readers that no one escaped. Kiosks too buzzed with information on the inauguration of the Civil Aviation School in Yaoundé. Likewise, on the stage set for the Advanced School of Mass Communication's 50th anniversary celebration, and the over 300 candidates that took the Concours d'entrée en sixième and Common Entrance examinations across the national territory. These and more kept readers abreast of the week's happenings.
Thank you very much, Yoti Kalele Songe, for reading the papers for us on Press R. Our topic again, if you are just joining us, threats to national unity. How can we overcome them? That's the focus of our discussion on Press R today. And I am telling you, as usual, ladies and gentlemen, that we on Press R, we do not suppress our emotions. What we do is to make sure that our good sense guides our discussions and our debate. National unity threats. We are going to start by identifying what are the threats to national unity. And we'll begin with the most senior on the set, Professor Paul Batibonack, whom I don't have to introduced again. I did that before.
Yeah.
What are we settling on as some of the threats to national unity?
Okay, let me start by mentioning what I think is the most dangerous one, is ethnic identity promotion. In Cameroon, you have two main elements that have been raised during these last years. First is ethnic identity, second, cultural identity. You begin to see that people started considering that their ethnic group, their ethnic interest, their ethnic, let's say, languages, culture, is more important than the national parameters. And from there, you see people, instead of considering that every Cameroonian is a brother, they began to make differentiation. You have Cameroonians who are more Cameroonians than others because they belong to the same ethnic group or to the same cultural group. From there, you begin to segment the country. And at the end of the day, what do you have? It's division. And I think this should be considered as a serious threat to national unity.
We are going to go around identifying them. We are going to talk about those threats you've raised there. Very important, Prof, and see how we can go around and overcome or redress them so that we stay a united country, strong and diversified and prosperous. Yes, Prof. Victor Mbarika, what are some of these threats to national unity that we can identify?
I have two. The first one is the lack of belief in competency. So, for example, when someone wants to hire people for a job, they want to look at their tribes first before looking at competence. I was raised by a father who owns his own business, and seeing him recruit people that were not necessarily people from Zangtabi village, and recruited people from my village, but always focused on who has the best talent to do what needs to be done. And so this is an absolutely foolish thing for you to go for someone without a competence just because they are from your tribe or something like that. The second part is the lack of belief in ourselves as Cameroonians. Boy, I love this country. I love this country, and because of the racism I've faced outside of Cameroon by white people, I am more than determined, more than ever before, to invest my time and resources in this country. But when you look at it that way and you believe in the dream of Cameroon, that in itself can be one of the reasons we have issues with national unity, because we don't look ourselves as one people. I would challenge you to say all these things we call the boundaries between different tribes and villages is crazy. Look at the word, the number 5. Check what the number 5 is in most Cameroon languages. It's tan, utan, tan, something to do with that sound.
That's interesting.
Just try. Think of all your
just
languages.
call my attention to that.
The number 5.
Yes.
You even go all the way to Kenya,
yes,
where they speak Swahili. The number 5 is tano. In Zangtabi we say tan. We are one people.
In my language we say mtan.
Exactly. We are one people.
What do you say in your language, Eugene?
Call it ta.
So exactly.
What
Something to do with tea.
What a revelation! I like that, Prof.
Right? So it's we have to believe in ourselves as one people. When some white boy in geography from some country came and drew lines, and we started believing that we are divided. We are one people. The food I eat in Zangtabi is closer to some foods in the western region of Cameroon than foods in some other further part. We eat the same foods. So I think those are the two areas I want to point out.
Very important. I want to appreciate you for that. And I'm going to go to Desmond. Desmond Ngala, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Civil Watch.
Civic.
Civic Watch. Thank you. So tell us, Desmond, what are the threats to national unity that you identify? I should even start identifying by what you do every day.
Thank you. I think the most pressing, and I will not actually leave that go by. Thank you, Professor, for hitting directly on the head. I would say it's the poor management of our multicultural background. Cameroon is it's multicultural, it's multi-ethnic, and because we've not actually learned our lessons to manage these diversities very well, we are faced with the problem of people trying to identify themselves differently, and the national consciousness of believing in one thing, which is Cameroon, above our different tribal and ethnic backgrounds has actually dwindled and given way to what we're seeing today, people who don't believe in Cameroon again. They believe somebody believes in a tribe, in a village, more than he believes in his country. The second thing I would say here is we've always said this over and over, that lack of ethics in the management of what we call the city at the state level has also pushed a lot of people who even actually believe in Cameroon to actually start losing the competence and the confidence they do have in this country. We have people who are put in places in which they're supposed to serve the country, and just because they've not been educated well to know that they are here for Cameroonians, for people, they start using these positions for themselves, and I'm happy that Prof has made mention to this. And the last one I would say is education. I think as a country we don't have an inclusive education that teach us better who we are as a people. Prof Mbarika is making a revelation here to many Cameroonians here today that the way 5 is called in most African languages is almost the same. And I would tell you that it goes just beyond that. Tribes, cultures, ethnic groups are interlinked in Cameroon. But we see a lot of people profane hate speech and hateful rhetorics just because they don't know that. And that's why we keep advocating for an inclusive education that takes into reality our context as a country, which is multicultural and multi-ethnic. We have 2 ethno-national groups, which is Francophone, Anglophone, but we have within these an assembly of melange of different kinds of ethnic cultural groupings, which if we could learn through education, instruments of socialization, the media, even the church today, traditional institutions, if we could use these ones to actually learn to know ourselves better, I think we can actually overcome.
Yes, you are already going into how we overcome solutions. We will come back to that and then you elaborate. I didn't want to cut you because you were so interesting.
Thank you.
Eugene, after all of this, I know that you have the most difficult task because they have named so many. If I ask you to continue, it means I am giving you something that is more difficult than what. So you want to comment on what has been said, or you want to add some of the threats to national unity?
I think they have said quite a couple of things that are a threat to national unity. First, if we consider national unity to mean the wholeness of a state, it means they have left out something, which is geography and development, that constitute a threat to national unity. I'll explain that. If the state is the wholeness that we are saying, national unity means all of us feel the belongingness to the state, to the Cameroon, to the country. It means there is another aspect. Which is this aspect? There are some communities where development hasn't reached, and these communities will feel that they are left out of that whole nation. There are certain communities where the only thing that arrives there most at times is ballot papers, not vaccines, not teachers that government has posted, not schools that have been created. This also constitutes some form of threat to national unity because they don't feel that much of that belongingness to the country. So it's good that the development is spread, not limited to region or regional headquarters or to divisional headquarters. When the communities start feeling there is, say, some national vaccination campaign, but they do not have the vaccines because perhaps they don't have access roads, that go there. But I tell you, they still have access roads because things like ballot papers still go there. It means that there is a problem, and that constitutes a threat to national unity.
Your contribution is deep, Eugene. I think those who understood him well have understood that his contribution is deep. So I have got things like, interestingly, nobody has talked about crisis and war. Cameroon, the people who are fighting to break the nation.
Yes, I think we can understand that that is a consequence of what you have, causes and consequences or manifestations. Eugene just mentioned development. When you have communities somewhere in a remote area thinking that they are not considered as part of the country, they begin to think that they can have a different fate or different destiny. So for me, it is quite understandable that this is another way, another expression of the same thing. But I think we can be thinking of highlighting something on that, because when there is no balance in terms of adequate development process, infrastructure for all, you begin to see that inequalities become visible. And when people realize that within, let's say, a particular region, let's say you have 100 kilometers of star roads, and in another one you have only 5 kilometers,
you don't even have.
or you don't even have, it becomes a problem. Are they still member of the same community, the same country?
That is what I was talking about.
So it's quite understandable.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let me just, I was taking notes. You've talked about geography, what you're talking about. You've talked about hate speech. You've talked about education. You've talked about lack of ethics in state management. You've talked about patriotism. You've talked about poor management of our cultural backgrounds. You've also talked about ethical identity promotion. Some of them will say it's tribalism.
Identity.
Yes, okay, thank you. Cultural identity, lack of belief in competency, lack of belief even in ourselves. Can you imagine how many things are threatening our national unity? We cannot in 1 hour discuss all of that. We are going to pick out some that are so topical, and we're going to start with hate speech, which is going around like wildfire. And if people who are analysis psychologists, sociologists are saying if we do not handle this within the shortest time possible, it could just be the time bomb. And I have you, Desmond, Ngala, you have an organization which deals with things like hate speech. Part of it is defy hate.
No.
If I make a mistake.
Now, Kilian, I must insist on the now in the defy hate.
Okay, defy hate now. Okay.
It's so important because we've always postponed the problem. We've always postponed putting back solutions to this problem, and we keep saying tomorrow. It's not just defy hate. It's not just putting an end to hate speech. Now, let me tell you that when they call you Chop Brookpot, when they call you Wari Wari in the Adamawa region, if they call you Gadamayomere when you are in the extreme north region, if they call you Kamnogo, when they call you Graffy, when somebody use a term to you such as Betty Mafia, or someone comes to you and say Biafran, Anglo-fou, Franco-frog, ennemi dans la maison, how do you feel? The first thing this does to you is that it prepares you psychologically not to see the person as a human being. And that's why we could have the Rwandan genocide. The genocides that have happened, studies have proven, practical, empirical studies, I'm speaking here on the controls of professors on this and Cameroonians here, that what happens to this is they prepare you psychologically not to see the next person as a human being, but to see them by the name you call them. And immediately you start seeing them that we are preparing ourselves for doom. Hate speech has been intensified by a lot of things we're calling here. social inequalities, political inequalities, people politically also, people who are trying to use politics to their own advantage, to use our multicultural diversity to their advantage for political gain, and say, oh, because you're from this tribe, because you believe in this, because you're from this background, you should actually go this. We want to stamp out hate speech from Cameroon. Also, we're very happy that today we have somebody from the ICT University here.
Yes.
We are in a world that it's moving at a speed, I must say, more than that of light again, because it's moving very fast. And the ICT is one of the things that's bringing this. We have somebody who can reach tens of thousands of people while sitting on his bed in his room with a fake account online. We have people also who are known, who go on Facebook, who go on Twitter, who go on different social media handles, and they profound hate speech against groups of people. And the worst of it all is that we don't see, at least to some extent, a very energetic response, not only from the states, but from us as individuals. I don't want to come to the state first. I want to come to us and ask us, let us not be bystanders as Cameroonians if we are talking of national unity. A bystander is someone who says it's not my responsibility to take up the questions of hate speech, but it's the responsibility of Kilian. It's that of a media house. It's that of the government. We don't need to do that, because the moment we do that and think someone else has to do that, that's a problem. The second thing is the government needs to actually sit up. Questions people ask me every day in the street is, are the laws existing in Cameroon just to do that? These are ingredients that are creating disunity in the united Cameroon, in the oneness that we used to see. As everyone around, Kilian, I will end with that, they will tell you their best memories of National Day celebration were when they were younger. Why? Because the more you grow, the more you question things that are around you. Okay. And one of them is hate speech.
Thank you very much. So brilliantly said. Prof, I have indication that we have someone from the United States of America who wants to, who has found it interesting to intervene and participate in this program. And it's Joe Ngale. Are you there? Happy to know that you are online. Welcome to Press Hour.
My friend Joe.
Thank you, Kilian, for inviting me to the program this afternoon. It's a great pleasure meeting you and other men and gentlemen on this panel. It's a great pleasure, and once more, I appreciate you inviting me on.
Into the United States to participate in this program. What we are talking about right away is hate speech. How do you look at this as a part of what is threatening our unity? And is it just a Cameroonian affair?
It's a good question. Hate speech is not tolerated anytime, anywhere, and in any country, because it incites violence. And one of those things that we're going through in our country today is part of the outcome of the political or whatever problems we have back home that generated because of the Northwest and Southwest marginalization, that you look back and remember that was an issue that came out of the lawyers and the teachers that had a peaceful demonstration, and the option of a dialogue was never used as a tool to mitigate that the problem. Unfortunately, the police option was used, and that led us to where we are today, where we lost a lot of human life, and a lot of properties have been damaged and lost. And we cannot continue to go down the slippery road. So hate speech is inciting violence. It's not necessary at this point. What we need is constructive dialogue and a follow-up of the resolutions that those dialogues will produce, like the one that they had in Yaoundé. So rather than us still chasing the shadow, which is the hate speech, we're not supposed to be focusing on the resolutions that were taken at the grand dialogue that was organized in Yaoundé, which, to my opinion, very little is being done to to get that accomplished. So we will never ever get down to this problem unless we go back to follow the agreement that was made, or some of the resolutions that were taken in the General Assembly. And one of the key was to reconstruct the damaged areas, and which has not been done. So we have to focus on the real issue and not chasing the shadow, which is now the hate speech, which we think is a threat to national unity. And I agree, the hate speech is a threat to national unity, but that is not the source of the problem. We have to go back to identify those remote causes of this problem and then tackle them head on.
Thank you very much, Joe Ngale, your friend, Prof. You are surprised.
My very nice surprise.
Yes, indeed. Please, we will advise that he should stay online. We may come back to him. We are going to come back to the studio. He talked about things like to overcome some of these things. We are going to go to that. You have to go to the root causes of what brings about hate speech. He has talked about dialogue and talked about the major national dialogue, and that the recommendations should be followed up. He's also saying that reconstruction should be real in the damaged areas, and I think without defending anyone, so much has been done, so much, maybe not reconstruction as such. Reconstruction is on. It's just very recent that the presidential plan for reconstruction of Northwest Southwest was revamped, and it is taking a new turn. I also have a 36-page document on the recommendations of the major national dialogue. I think the problem may be communication, not actually that they are not doing anything. Thank you very much. You also know that during that national dialogue, the major thing, as he said, was the English subsystem, and then the common law system of the English part of the country. And it was said during that the dialogue that it may be maintained as it was, and that the two subsystems of education should be the same. I think just from that could be said to be something that came out from the dialogue. Now, from what he has said, I would just want us to continue with the debate here on the set, beginning with you. You've now talked about this hate speech and the devastating effects, Prof. And he says that it's not a Cameroonian affair, it's everywhere around the world, but probably Cameroon may have specificities.
Yeah, this issue of hate speech, I have a totally different perspective of it. It's not I don't look at it as a root cause of the problem. There are other issues. First of all, we have decided as Cameroonians to be divided. I mean, you named a number of things: Francophone, Anglophone. You even forget, even amongst the Anglophones. I cannot believe this. You hear things like Northwesterners, Southwesterners.
Okay.
To me, that's even hate speech. What does that even mean? You know, and we are coming out of competencies in order to just decide to put ourselves in a certain cage in order to discriminate against others, and that causes hate speech. I don't know how true this is, Kilian, but I was told that someone even made a statement on is it radio or TV that all Anglophones should be wiped out. I don't know how true that is.
Yes, and the person, actually someone did that and has been condemned. He was castigated, and nobody sided with him.
Very good. So you see, when things like that happen and there is action, that means there is there is some improvement in things like that. See, the way I look at our country, we can always say enough is not done, but let's also glorify what has been done to help. The Grand National Dialogue may not have been perfect. I was there. But my goodness, there are people that still don't want to see any value in the Grand National Dialogue. The fact that we could sit and talk, the Prime Minister, I was present, allowed everybody to talk. I did not see a minute when the Prime Minister stopped anybody in the middle of their talk. That in itself is an improvement. What I really hate is that we always want to go back and make our country feel as if we are not making any steps ahead. there is much more to be done, but I think some things are improving, and I will say this for myself.
Yes.
I come from Zangtabi, but I grew up at a Fulan. Most of my friends are Wondos that I grew up with. If you divide this country, why do people like me go to? Because I have more friends that are from this region than I do from even the north, because I grew up with them. I ate at their houses. My parents never stopped me. They never feared poisoning. I enjoyed being with them in Tama, Ndongo, Abega. I remember them. Some of them are dead, but we were close. So in trying to make me feel different, there are improvements. Now I have to finish this. And even when I work with members of government or different people, I have never, unless it's coming soon, I have never been to an office where I was discriminated against or not given something that I know of, because most of the things I've really gone for and asked for. If one person says no, I go to the next one, I get it. So there are some improvements. How can we celebrate the good things while we go forward? I know a lot of people disagree with me. Let's not always think the worst of this country, please, my brothers.
And I know you are one of these, Eugene. Prof just said that's what was happening. Desmond said that earlier, that when we think back, it's like the good old days. We mean that something is changing. That's why we have this topic. Threats to national unity. How can we overcome? It means that there's something that is going wrong. You are very correct, but there's something that's going wrong. We are on hate speech. Eugene.
Yes, thank you, Kilian. National unity, that is our focus, means that you feel comfortable wherever you find yourself in Cameroon. I think the professors here would admit it may not be a scientific definition, but ordinarily that would mean that you feel very comfortable wherever you find yourself in Cameroon.
Exactly, that's what we call a nation state.
Good. Now, Desmond was just naming some of these speeches which people have been making and which undermine some communities or some tribes or some other people or where you come from. These have been repeated in, like Prof mentioned one that somebody said on a TV platform about the Northwesterners. We have had, even, permit me for the word, big people use such words on TV platforms, radio platforms, and they go with it.
That is where the problem is.
That is a problem now.
Yeah.
What? Just 1 minute.
Yes.
They have used that and they have gone with it. What will you expect from a small person? Permit me for the usage. I'm talking so we understand the context. If a big man can use such words and he goes free, is it not setting a pace, a precedence that people, other small people can use same and go free? Recently, I think, like Prof said, anyway, there's some improvement, because recently there was a video of some guy, I'll consider him maybe a lunatic, permit me for the word, who was insulting Anglophone women are smelling in Yaoundé, taxi, and so on and so forth. When I watched the thing,
I hear he has been arrested.
That is why I was saying that, Prof, there is some improvement, as Prof has said. I hear he was summoned at the State Defense Secretariat, because he said, it's good, it's a good move, but government should also go above by making it popular and then giving him sanctions and making it known, so that it dissuades others who think like him, because there are many of them who say it. This man might not have been saying it in other place, but said it in a social media, or his video might have gone viral. There are other videos that might not have gone viral. There are some people who have said it in other social gatherings and so on, who may not know. But if somebody like that guy is punished, and it is made known that he is punished for using hate language against Anglophones in Yaoundé, I think it will also dissuade other people who think that they will go same way.
That is very correct, Eugene. We want to know who is supposed to, apart from the National Gendarmerie that intervened this time, the various bodies, institutions that are supposed to watch that out should go out and make sure this doesn't happen. I think that's what we're talking about. Prof, you have not elaborated on how do we fight hate speech. We are still on hate speech. Remember, we still have another threat to national unity to talk about. This hate speech is just one of them.
Yeah, I think I will say in all over the world, it's through education that all these messages are passed on. When you consider that our education system is based on knowledge transmission, you begin to wonder why some of these things or this behavior or postural behavior are not seen in our habits. Why are people hating others? Why are they not considering their neighbors as brothers or sisters? Why? Are they hating their relatives too? Okay. Or is this selective? What is the criteria they are using, the criterion, or what are the criteria they are using to select those who should be hated and others loved? I think education has something to do.
Very important.
You talked about, let's say, responsibility. From there, you see that, first, our education system has a problem. Education is not only at school, but within homes. What are parents telling their children? Because when you look at the system, let's say, in Europe or Western world, you'll never in a classroom see, Prof. Mbarika mentioned racism. In a classroom, you'll never see anyone teaching racism.
Not at all.
But in the street, on the street,
you have it.
You have it. Who is teaching those children?
Oh, good.
So our families have responsibility in what they tell children in terms of education, norms, values. So if we look at it carefully, if we want to scrutinize, you will realize that in families, hatred is present.
Yes.
But it is not sanctioned. How do we overcome that?
Tell us.
I think it starts with the national system. It is through schools that you transmit better values, or values largely. Because everybody who went to the same school is like, we call them like-minded. They think the same. Yeah. Birds of the same nest.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. Desmond, your organization has this sub-segment which is Defy Hate Now, as you say. It's not what should we do. You must have been doing that on the ground. What have you been doing?
Good. Permit me to say first that hate speech is not only spoken or written. Hate speech could also be artistic. It could also be moves in which we do. We have people who move out of the room and someone does a particular action that depicts what they would want you to see, that kind of person, and he comes back and everyone smiles or looks away. So we need to actually be careful. I think the first thing we've been doing is to engaging with the media, both ICT, like online medias, as well as the mainstream media. Remember that before someone says that a whole community, or calls a whole community rats, or someone calls a whole community and advocates for violence against them, it goes to the media. It passes through the editorial room, and it's been aired on people's screens. We've been trying to engage the media, and most especially those who have power in the newsroom, editors and editors-in-chiefs, owners of media houses, to be sure that they actually understand first what is hate speech, because that was one of the first problems. We've grown up, all of us, we've grown up in communities with cliches, in which when we become much more mature, when we know what is as a nation, we start saying that this was wrong. We've danced to some of these cliches and we've laughed with most of them. And today we've discovered that this is not right. That is the first thing. The second thing has been using influential voices in the communities. We're using traditional and religious authorities. We're using cultural actors. We're using people in the arts, in music. We have had a lot of hate speech which has gone unnoticed because it's been through songs. It's been through sketches. that we've gone. And that is why we're using those who we call, I know the term influencer in Cameroon, it's actually very problematic, because in one time it's used as people who are actually influencing the youths negatively. But we've been trying to use some of these voices. Thirdly, and very importantly, we've been trying to create a critical mass of those who can go online and correct information. Kilian, if information is posted out of context online, people believe it, and it's hateful, it incites violence against another community, there is nothing you'd come and do 2 weeks later. When people organize themselves, I'll tell you this for a fact, that we have hate speech. A whole phrase that is hateful is being shared by 100 people. It has a grammatical error. No one picks it. All of the 100 people sharing it online share the same kind of content. It tells us people are organized. And we've been flagging this.
We accept what you're saying, especially when you talk about the negative connotation we have about our influencers today. Actually, in some areas, those people are called opinion leaders, and we pass through them to influence. We promised John Gale that he should stay online. We'll get back to him. As one of our diaspora, whom I know to be patriotic, yes, Joe, if you are still there, what do you tell some of those our diaspora who are working, who are doing so many things to disintegrate our country? What do you, who are there with them, being patriotic, what do you tell them?
Yes, you're right. Good number of people living outside of the country, like myself, some people have taken advantage of what is going on and try to position themselves in a political landscape, but they fail to understand some of the damages that the things that people say or do, that they have real consequences on human life and our economy. Because I would tell anybody out here to not to use hate speech, because that incites violence, and violence by itself is a destructive element to our economy and the social problems we have back home. If you look at right now, the economy has been grounded to almost nothing because of the crisis that has taken too long, and now added to the COVID-19 that has led to global inflation, has even worsened the whole thing. So imagine we had unemployment even before the COVID-19 era. It was almost about 40%. When crisis came, and now COVID-19, we should be in the 60s or 70s right now, because most businesses closed down. A lot of people lost their jobs. Most people displaced. They're living in places where they cannot make life affordable. We should be taking care of these people. That's the problem we should have right now. And one of the ways that government could address some of these issues is to ensure that they can depopulate the congested areas already, like Douala, where lots of people from Northwest and Southwest migrated in fear of violence. And now they've created another problem, the economic problem and the social problem. Look at the housing situation in Douala right now. No jobs, unemployment. People don't have what to take care of their families. Some don't even have where to live. So for you to depopulate that city right now, those places must return to calm. And one of the ways that government can return those places to calm, which some of them have already returned calm, like where I come from in Bangam, the place is relatively calm right now. What are the projects that government promised in doing in those areas, like the Bangam Road? That's supposed to must have been done. And if that were done, the people now who are still living in those violent areas will be those who will be searching for peace, because they want to be like the people on the other side. So unless we try to use this kind of method where we have to improve life of the people, where places are calm, and then the other places would have followed suit. And you can at some point achieve peace naturally without that even putting military or boots on the ground. But anybody with the intention that we need to put boots on the ground in order for us to achieve the peace we're looking for is a far-fetched dream, and that is never, ever going to happen. So we have to follow the root cause I know people have always said Cameroon is, we were divided Cameroon before, and we have to go back to where we were. But I've never heard anybody who told me what Cameroon was before 1920, because Cameroon was divided in 1920, and in 1961, we got back together. But where were we before 1920? One Cameroon or two Cameroon? Obviously, historians will say the fact. It was one Cameroon before 1920, that we were divided under the trusteeship of the France and Britain. And we cannot keep talking about where we were or where we were before instead of looking for a path forward. Germany just came on board in 1990. The three Germans united. There's no longer East Germany, there's no longer West Germany. They're one nation now. And they're working together and to get give a good life to the citizens and live in peace. And today they have one of the largest economy in Europe.
Joe, please.
But we've been here since 1960, producing no results, arguing everything. So hate speech, yeah, is part of the problem, but it's not all of the problem.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joe, for such an incisive intervention. We are very grateful. We are happy that you connected with us and shared on this set from the United States of America.
I want to say thank you, Kilian, for inviting me to this program. It's been a great pleasure being on the show again, and I look forward to many more coming ahead. And I want to thank my fellow friends on the panel, especially a good friend of mine, Prof. Victor Mbarika. Hope you're having fun out there, and stay safe, and hope to talk to you when you return back to the U.S. Thank you, and blessed Sunday to all of you.
You are so very much welcome, Joe Ngale, whom we connected from the United States of America. We didn't stop him because what he was saying was very interesting, and trying to answer some of the questions we were asking. Your friend is especially saying we should extend his regards to you, Professor Mbarika.
He's a great patriot. I love him. I love Joe. He's a great patriot, and that's why we get along. We love this country.
Okay, now we are still on how do we overcome some of these threats. Someone is saying the centralization in government that we had before, this time we have decentralization that is getting into high gear. Don't you think that is one of the reasons or one of the ways by which we can overcome what someone said here before in identifying, said that there is this lack of belonging. We don't feel that we are part of the nation.
I think, Kilian, there are two levels. You have the local level, you have the national level. But at each level, we have to provide civic education. Okay. Civic identity should be the key. Okay. You are a Cameroonian even if you are coming from a particular place. Coming from, let's say, Ngelemenduka doesn't mean that you are more Cameroonian than the one who is coming from Kuseri. All of you are Cameroonians. This should be taught at school. This should be communicated through medias and even social medias. But parents should be responsible of teaching this to their children at home. Second thing is that when you talk about decentralization, it shouldn't be just words. You have to transfer competencies and resources to decentralized territorial collectivities. And this should be it should be balanced. When you say, for example, 10% or 15%, I think it is not enough. You have to give resources so that people feel that at the local level, the national level is thinking about them. You shouldn't allow remote regions to dwell only on what they can produce. The national budget should sustain for some of their charges. And from there, they see and they enjoy the support of the national dimension.
Okay.
So from both areas, from both parts, you will see that the civic identity, the national identity is being built. For the formation of this state will become something that all population, all citizens can own.
Thank you very much, Prof. You called that when you were identifying the threat to national unity as ethnic identity promoters or promotion.
Yeah.
And we simply call it tribalism in simple language. It could be part of it. Yes, Eugene, Prof is giving us what should be done under normal circumstances in ideal situation. We already have the tribalism now. How do we overcome this?
Yes, I support the fact of the civic education that has to be done. But for somebody from Ngeleminduka to feel Cameroonian, government should permit it. Because somebody from Ngeleminduka that Prof just mentioned may feel less Cameroonian because of the amenities, that he feels that I am less Cameroonian because I enjoy less privileges than somebody from Betua Central, even when they come from the same region.
So development should be taken there.
Somebody from Furawa should not feel that because he's in Furawa, he's off. Somebody from Akko should not feel the same. Somebody from Akwaya should not feel that is because of this thing. Government should make sure that if there is something for one, there should be something for two.
For all.
And for all.
Yes.
As that may be, let it go down to them so that they feel part and parcel of Cameroon.
Yes, Desmond.
Thank you. Kilian, I think the first thing...
That would be your last word in 1 minute.
The first thing I would say is that we cannot celebrate national unity without people not being able to possess national identity cards. Using this platform to say, how do we reconcile the two? But civic education, that's why I had an organization which is called Civic Watch. We need civic education in this country. We need education as a whole, but we need civic education. But also, it's a national call for consciousness.
Yes.
If you're burning this country down, know that there will be no place for you to live.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what I started by saying, that we should not allow anyone to burn this country. If the person wants to burn anything, the person should burn themselves. That is what I mean. Prof, yes, your last word.
Please, Kilian, permit me to say this. I'm always the one that I don't believe government can solve everything. I really don't. I am always for individuals. The people have to fight this hate speech from. If somebody comes to you and is insulting someone from another tribe, correct them right there. But most of the time, when we are doing it, we join them. Okay, I want to repeat it. This thing called tribalism and so on it exists in America. It's called racism. I am a full professor under the state of North Carolina. Even and a distinguished professor for that matter. I have a distinguished title. And I'm saying this, and this thing will go on social media. I'm at East Carolina University. There are racist people at East Carolina University that will be racist against me just because of my accomplishments. White people that would hate me, but there's some goodwill, like they've been writing some funny mails in the hiding, and some good-minded people, as we speak today, spoke out and revealed some of these letters they were writing in the background against me. Individuals, white, that saw other white people in the University Council at East Carolina University, human resource, etc., departmental, doing wrong things. They
denounce
and denouncing it and exposed it to the public. That is what we need to do.
That is what we should do.
The government cannot, the government of Cameroon cannot do everything. So let's not demand so much from our government. And by the way, nobody is called government.
Exactly. Government is all. Thank you. I think you have ended in the way we would have liked this program to end. Professor Victor Mbarika, who is a Cameroonian diaspora, and a patriot, as you followed him on set today. He has told you he is a distinguished professor in North Carolina University. He is also the president of ICT University, the branch of which is in Cameroon. Now, we also had Professor Paul Batibonack, an international relations expert. He is the minister plenipotentiary and a prolific writer. He has so many other titles. We just wanted to evoke these ones here. We want to thank you for coming, Prof.
Thank
and
you,
Prof. Now, we also have Desmond Ngala, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Civic Watch. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us on Press Hour.
Thank you for inviting me, Kilian.
Ndi Eugene Ndi is the publisher and editor-in-chief of NewsWatch. Eugene, thank you for always coming when we call.
It's a pleasure.
How can we fail to say thank you to Joe Ngale, who called from the United States of America and shared his views, and you heard from him what they think that they should do. You denounce what is wrong. You yourself don't wait for another person. Thanks once again. If you missed out on anything of this program from the beginning, there will be a full rebroadcast on Monday at 2:30. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. Have a good day.